7,000 targets gone in just 19 days. Imagine systematically dismantling an entire nation's military infrastructure in less than 3 weeks. Welcome to this explainer on the Pentagon's official briefing for Operation Epic Fury. Today, we're decoding the raw data and the intense military strategy behind what is literally one of the fastest, most intense combat operations in modern history. We're going to piece together the sheer scale of this mission, strictly using the official statements to understand exactly what is happening on the ground.
According to the Pentagon, 7,000 is the staggering number of military infrastructure targets struck in just the first 19 days of Operation Epic Fury. That is a truly breathtaking pace. It's designed to apply overwhelming, absolutely unrelenting force. But to understand how they even reached this staggering figure, we first got to look at what exactly they were aiming for.
Okay, let's dive into this with Section 1, Operation Epic Fury, Objectives.
So before we get to the battlefield itself, we really need to understand the goals driving this massive campaign. Neutrally outlined by the Secretary in the briefing, the Pentagon's operational objectives against Iranian infrastructure are basically fourfold. 1. Destroy missiles and launchers. 2. Completely decimate the defense industrial base so it literally can't be rebuilt. 3. Destroy the naval fleet. And 4. Ultimately, prevent them from acquiring a nuclear weapon. Military officials are absolutely adamant that these have remained the laser-focused targets since day one. No widening the mission scope, just sticking to the original plan.
Moving on to Section 2, Timeline of Strategic Progress. Let's look at how this all escalated. Walking through this timeline, it's really a story of suspenseful, methodical escalation. Day 1 officially set those rigid objectives we just talked about. Then, by week 2, boom, a massive jump. Precision strikes hit over 90 targets, specifically on Karg Island, knocking out crucial air defenses and naval bases. And by day 19, that snowball effect brings us to over 7,000 total infrastructure targets hit. It's an incredibly systematic dismantling, step by step.
And this brilliantly illustrates the real-world impact of those strikes. Based on the Pentagon's own battle damage assessments, there has been a massive 90% drop in incoming Iranian ballistic missile attacks against U.S. forces. And it's the exact same story for one-way attack UAVs, those kamikaze drones. They are also down by 90%. Basically, they've targeted the factories and production lines to completely cut off the supply right at the source.
But the degradation isn't just happening on land or in the air. Over 120. That is the number of Navy ships officially damaged or sunk so far. In fact, during the briefing, the Secretary used a pretty grim historical quip. He noted that the Pentagon has essentially decided to share the ocean with the adversary's fleet by giving them the bottom half.
Expanding on that maritime destruction, the submarine threat has been completely eliminated. According to the briefing, all 11 of their submarines are now completely destroyed, and their military ports are totally crippled. So the surface fleet, according to military officials, is basically no longer a factor at all.
Which brings us to Section 3, Striking Underground Facilities, because the real peril isn't on the surface.
You see, the most dangerous threats aren't usually sitting out in the open on a runway or floating in a port. They are buried deep, deep, inside mountains and massive concrete tunnels. To neutralize them requires some incredibly suspenseful physics. Here's how it works. Step 1. They drop a massive 5,000-pound penetrator weapon. Step 2. This bespoke bomb is uniquely designed to literally pierce through solid rock and reinforced concrete barriers without breaking apart on impact. Step 3. Only after penetrating all those heavily fortified layers does the weapon actually wake up and detonate, deep inside those underground coastal defense and ammunition storage depots. Incredible engineering.
Now, what's really interesting about this next part is Section 4, Shifting to Stand-in Weapons. We're seeing a huge tactical shift here in the skies.
A massive, really high-stakes tactical change is happening right now. Early on in the operation, forces heavily utilized standoff weapons. These are munitions fired from a relatively safe distance, well outside hostile airspace. But as the conflict has progressed, they've shifted to stand-in weapons. This means aircraft are now penetrating much deeper into hostile territory, literally flying right over the top of targets. It is significantly riskier for the pilots for sure, but it allows for exact accuracy and dynamic targeting. They're basically hunting targets the exact second they emerge from those underground tunnels. To support this really aggressive stand-in strategy, the military is layering different airborne assets to systematically suppress any remaining threats. A-10 Warthogs are out there actively hunting fast-attack watercraft in the Strait of Hormuz. Meanwhile, AH-64 Apaches have joined the fight on the southern flank to neutralize kamikaze drones. It's this heavily coordinated push deeper into the airspace, all to destroy their ability to project power outside their own borders.
Let's slow down for a second for Section 5, the bomber crew reality, because we have to talk about the people actually executing this.
Behind all these staggering statistics and crazy high-tech weapons, there is a very raw human element grounding this entire operation. The chairman of the Joint Chiefs made a specific point to describe the immense physical toll this takes on the young airmen, many of whom are just in their early to mid-20s. These B-1, B-2, and B-52 crews are executing absolutely grueling 24-hour mission cycles. And you gotta remember, unlike a nimble little fighter jet, physically handling hundreds of thousands of pounds of these massive bomber aircraft while connected to a refueling boom for 30 straight minutes in a hostile, highly stressful environment is completely exhausting.
The chairman highlighted what he called the warrior's prayer that goes through the minds of these young aviators. Dear God, please don't let me screw this up. I think that really emphasizes the incredibly heavy burden placed on these crews, as well as the maintainers on the ground, who are literally out there building these massive bombs in the freezing rain and snow 24/7. It's a sobering reminder of the sheer human endurance required to execute an operation of this magnitude.
So the crucial point we need to look at is Section 6, assessing the endgame. Where does this unprecedented show of force actually lead? Well, the briefing leaves us with a pretty unresolved reality. They have deliberately not set a definitive time frame for when this whole thing will end, relying entirely on the president's choosing. But with over 7,000 targets degraded in just 19 days, we really have to ask, what does this overwhelming, violent shift in military infrastructure mean for the future balance of power in the Middle East? It's a highly provocative question with massive global implications, and one we are going to be watching incredibly closely. Thanks for joining me to decode this incredibly complex briefing.